today is Infowise Ultimate Forms versus InfoPath. We're going to be comparing feature by feature these two tools for creating forms and business processes within SharePoint. At any point during our presentation, you can ask any question that you want. Please use the question pane on the right-hand side, and we have people who will be able to answer your questions right away. So let's just start. Okay, so why do we need forms in SharePoint? So basically, SharePoint and its list are great for managing and creating information. The problem is that the built-in forms are quite basic, and for advanced business solutions, they're basically not good enough. So what alternatives do we have? Well, obviously, Microsoft provided us with InfoPath forms. InfoPath is basically a standalone product that is an XML-based form generator and filler. And it can also integrate with SharePoint by providing forms for the SharePoint list or working within SharePoint. But it's not by any means a native SharePoint solution. It will look and behave differently from all the rest of your SharePoint. You also are required to have the SharePoint server with the enterprise license. And you will need also client accounts for that as well. And obviously, as you know, it's a retired product, and there will be no more new versions or features. Now, InfoPath actually can integrate into SharePoint in two distinct ways. First of all, you can simply replace the built-in forms in your list with InfoPath generated forms. That will basically be the same form. It will still submit to the same SharePoint item, but it will look and behave slightly differently. It gives limited additional functionality and can be mainly used as a layout feature. So if you want the form to look differently from the built-in form, you can use that. We also have the ability to have form libraries. So basically, they are a type of document library that allow you to save the XML data file that InfoPath produces. So in that case, we're not talking about saving to a list item. We're basically talking about saving a file. It has more functionality in terms of the things that you can do with your InfoPath there. For example, it allows you things like repeating sections, which allows you to have more flexible data structure. But again, it's not a native solution. Let's talk about Infowise Ultimate Forms. What we offer here is a complete code-free platform for building your SharePoint forms and business processes within your SharePoint. It's extremely feature-rich. We have actually 18 different components working together that cover all the aspects of creating and managing a business solution, business process within your SharePoint. It works on any version of SharePoint from 2007 to 2013, including the free foundation. There's no need for the expensive licensing. And not just forms. We're talking about reporting. We're talking about implementing business logic, integration with external systems, and so on. So from now on, our presentation is going to be basically the feature-by-feature comparison. So let's start with that. So in terms of how we design and integrate our forms. With InfoPath, we're talking about a standalone application. We need to install it in the same way that you would install Word or Excel, and you will be designing your form within that application. Whereas Infowise Ultimate Forms integrates into SharePoint and is actually accessible for the design purposes from any list directly in the same way as you would add a new column. In terms of integration, as I was saying, InfoPath has a non-native UI functionality that will look differently and work differently within your SharePoint, whereas Ultimate Forms will look and behave in the same way that your users are used to. And in terms of licensing, again, InfoPath requires you the enterprise license, and Ultimate Forms only requires the free foundation and can work on any other version as well. So let's just see how they look like. So we're actually going to show only Ultimate Forms because you are familiar with InfoPath and because we don't have time to spend on this as well. So let's just see if we go to any list and then we switch to its list ribbon, we will see an additional button being added to the ribbon, and this is our design button here. When we click on this button, we get access to all of the features of Ultimate Forms. So first of all, on the right-hand side, you will see a quick help of how to start building your business process. You will have all of our blog entries that help you. We have a lot of step-by-step blogs of how to achieve certain things. And here we have all the features that you can start from here. Go back. So once we've completed that, let's talk about the actual features. So the first feature that we are going to be talking about, and that's probably the most common thing, is the ability to modify the layout of your forms. So in InfoPath, you can have your sections, and you can, using drag and drop, you can fill out those sections with controls that map to columns and values. In Ultimate Forms, we have a concept of tabs, which can have permissions assigned to them, also have section groups and multi-column layout, basically meaning that your fields will be laid out in one or more vertical columns on your form. In terms of look and feel, in InfoPath, you can basically, using the designer, change the styling on your form. In our case, we have most of the common configurations we can simply set through an easy-to-use configuration screen, such as the background colors and so on. All the more advanced configurations you can do through CSS that we also provide access to. So you can easily add overrides for any, for example, button sizes and so on. In terms of SharePoint integration, in terms of how it looks within your SharePoint. So as I was saying, InfoPath will have a distinct look. It will not look like your forms or your lists. In our case, we're talking about 100% native look. So let's just take a look at that. This is actually an InfoPath form. So if I want to create a new one, I would have to look at something like that. This is based on a regular list. So it's basically the more limited version, and it basically overrides the way your form looks like. So you have this image on the left and so on. So, but you can see that it looks different from what your regular SharePoint list will look like. So let's go and look at how we can make things look. So let's start with the regular context lists. This is a list of lists. It's based on a regular SharePoint context list, but it has been enhanced to have a more functional and better looking interfaces for its forms. So let's just open up this item here. So I'm just opening up the display form. So right now you can see the difference. First of all, we have this tabbed interface. So we subdivided the information into different tabs. In a regular list, you'll have a long list of fields. You have to scroll down to see it all. In this case, we combine them in tabs based on topic. We also have subsections here as well, so we can lay it out exactly in the way that we want. We also controlled the title here, put it in the image, background colors, increase the size of the button here, and so on. So let's now go to the edit form, just edit the item. You will see that it's all preserved here as well. You will see that, again, we have this multiple columns. We have the labels placed above the field to conserve space. We can see that the descriptions have been hidden into this pop-ups. So again, to conserve space and make it easier to work with. Okay. Permissions. And I'm talking here about something that is called column-based permissions. So basically, we want to control the permissions within the form, not between lists or between items. So as I was saying about tabs, tabbed interface is a very important thing here. Tab allows us to not only subdivide your form into topics, but also to assign permissions to different groups of fields based on, for example, conditions or who the user is. So in InfoPath, there is no concept of tabs. You can group your columns into groups and assign layout to a group, but you cannot directly create tabs. You can implement it with views, but it's quite a hard process, and it's not that easy. In our case, again, as we saw it, we can have tabs, we can have groups, we can have subsections, and so on. So one of the reasons we want tabs, as I was saying, is the tab permissions. So for example, we can set to a tab and its columns to be writable, read-only, or hidden through conditions based on other column values, based on who the user is, and based on what form we are in. In InfoPath, you can also modify if the column is writable, read-only, hidden using rules just based on column values. We can also assign direct permissions. So we can assign a specific permission for a specific column that will actually override the tab permissions, again, through the same type of conditions and who the user is. Actually, in InfoPath, you can only assign column permissions. You cannot assign permissions to a group of fields at the same time. So if you have a lot of fields, it's quite a laborious process to assign permission to each one of them. And another feature that we have is the view permissions. So basically, we can control who can use which view of the list. For example, in purchase orders, maybe you don't want everybody to be able to see the approval status or the total amount. So you can create a view that includes that and only limit it to a certain number of people, and another view for everybody else. Okay, so let's talk about tab permissions a little bit more. Let's talk about it in a purchase order context. So we have a list of purchase orders. Now, when I go and I create a new purchase order, you will see that we have this tabbed interface with just one single tab, which is the main details of the purchase order. But when I go and I open up a different existing item, apologize for any delays, I can actually see that there are two tabs. One of them is for the details and one is for the approval. Let's just switch to the edit mode and you will see that we actually have this details tab always in read-only, whereas the approval tab is in read-write mode. And if we actually go to an approved purchase order, both tabs are going to be in read-only mode. So we can control, have precise control over how each field behaves. Just to show you how easy it is to set something like that up, let's just click on the design button. And now click on tabs and tab permissions. And here are two tabs. Here is how we assign the columns. These are all the columns from the list, so we assign some of them to each one of the tabs. And down here, we also assign some permissions. So we can have specific permissions for specific forms, for specific users, and under specific conditions. And it's all very easy to set up. It takes virtually minutes. Another great thing about the tab permissions is the ability to have dynamic permissions. Let me give you an example. For example, this is a list of insurances. We actually have two types of insurances here. We can have either home insurance or we can have vehicle insurance. So let's start with creating a new insurance. Just click on it, and you can see again we have only one tab. And there are some main details, and there's the insurance type selector. So let's select home insurance, and the second I do that, a new tab for home details appears. I can also switch to vehicle insurance, and you see that the home details disappeared, and now we have vehicle details instead. So I can actually control which fields, which tabs appear dynamically based on changes to the other fields on the form. So you can create a very dynamic form that will actually only show the fields that you need based on the previous input. Okay, let's talk about the data structure, how we are going to be saving the information into SharePoint. So in InfoPath, and if you want, obviously, to take advantage of all the features of InfoPath, such as the repeating sections, you would want to store to a forms library. So in this case, we're talking about an XML file being saved to that library that InfoPath can read and open. It's not a SharePoint item in a sense. Well, you understand. In Ultimate Forms, it's all completely list-based. So it's completely integrated into your SharePoint. Every field that you see in the form is a column within your list, unlike XML here. Repeating section. So again, you would need in InfoPath you would need to use a forms library to be able to use that. But even when you do use that, all of the items in the repeating sections in the XML are just nodes within that XML. They do not actually map to any real-life SharePoint item. They are not visible, for instance, in views. You would have to open the form. In our case, they are all real items in related lists. They're visible in both forms and views. And as real items, they can have things like a lifecycle, versioning, workflows, and so on, item permissions. Once we have these repeating items and sections, we want to summarize them. So in InfoPath, we can have summary functions within the forms themselves. For instance, total of all the lines within an invoice. In our case, these are automatically calculated subject to filters, and they do not need to be on the form. So if you can actually change an item that is a related item to something, and it will be recalculated for the parent item without you having to go and open the form for the related item. Let me give you an example. So actually, a purchase order is a great example. So first of all, you are able to see the related items directly from within the parent list. So you basically just click on these items, click for details, and we will actually fetch the related items for you and bring them in. For example, here are two, and you can actually have the complete context menu. You can actually manage the child item from within the view of the parent item as well. So let me just open the form and show you from here as well. So you can see that the related items are directly here. You can again manage them from here. And if we are in edit mode, you can also add new ones directly from within the parent without having to worry about maintaining the relationship. Well, actually, we can only do it in the new form because the edit form, as we were saying, is blocked for editing. So let me just show it from here. So I can basically add any number of related items directly from the parent. It can be any types of items, it can be tasks, it can be documents, and so on. And in terms of summary, you'll see that the total is automatically calculated for this purchase order, and we don't need to worry about that at all. Okay, column types. SharePoint has a lot of different column types. Let's see which solution supports them. So InfoPath does support most of them, but some of them are not supported exactly the same way as you would see them in SharePoint. And some are not supported at all. For instance, a lot of people complain about not being able to use managed metadata within InfoPath. So in our case, because we're based on regular forms, which simply extend the regular forms instead of replacing them, all column types are obviously supported. What about the custom column types from other vendors or something that you developed, or maybe from us? Well, InfoPath does not support any of those, and we support everything, including any other vendors as well. We are also providing a lot of this custom column types as part of Ultimate Forms, such as the associated items that we just saw, and that we implemented the lines in the purchase order, colors that we also saw, and icons, and so on. You can actually see it when you go to Design button, scroll down, you'll see all the types of custom columns that we provide. Okay, let's talk about validation and default values. So in terms of default values, in InfoPath, you can set default values for fields. These defaults are going to be common to all users that are going to be using this form. In our case, we can have user-specific default values that also can be content type specific if you have multiple content types in your list, and you can even pass the default values through the URL for more advanced solutions. Validation rules. Again, in InfoPath, they are subject to conditions, and they can have support for specific patterns, such as an email and a URL. In our case, they're specific to users, they're subject to conditions, and we have a complete pattern support for any regular expression, although we do provide shorthands for emails and so on. Another very important thing, very powerful thing, is the ability to validate related items. Not supported in InfoPath. In our case, it's supported, and it can be extremely useful. Let me show you an example of how useful it can be. For instance, we have a list of projects, and using related items, associated items, we actually have tasks associated with each one of these projects. So for instance, I click here, I see some tasks. We can actually calculate not just that there are tasks, we can calculate and count the number of open tasks, so we can have a filter on the tasks that we want to summarize. So in this case, we have 2 open tasks. Let's just try now to change the status of this project to be completed. Okay, I'm going to edit it, and I'm going to be changing the status to be completed. Okay, completed, and I'm going to try to click on save. And it doesn't save. It tells us all tasks must be completed before completing the project. So we have this extremely advanced validation rule that goes and checks the number of related items according to a filter and prevents us from saving the item. Again, it's done. Everything is done through your browser. Everything is configured through your form, through your list directly without using any external tools. Next, actions. Well, this is a very, very advanced topic, very powerful topic. We actually had a webinar dedicated only to that. So actions is something that implements the business logic behind the form. So in InfoPath, the only type of action that you can do is set the field value. So you can set a specific field value based on conditions and so on. For instance, when other value changes. In our case, we actually support 16 types of actions that can range from creating, updating any item in any list, in any site, in any site collection, managing permission, creating new sites and lists, and so on and so forth. In InfoPath, as I said, it can only run when you change a value. In our case, it can run when you add, edit, update, delete an item. It can run on a timer, for instance, say every Tuesday or 2 days before the due date, or it can even be manual, so you can have this ribbon button that will do things for you, implement your business logic. So let's see how it works. And again, all of this is, again, configured just using your browser. So let's go to this list of projects, and let's create a new project. Actually, all we need to put in when we create a new project is a project name, which can be test 11, the start and the end date. And let's leave the status to be initialized as well. So if you notice here, and I'm going to be a little bigger for you, these are the actions that are going to be running once I click on Save. So we have a couple of actions to create related tasks. One is to generate documentation, the other one to assign resources. We're also going to be counting those tasks, well, it's going to be 2, and we're going to be creating a team site for this new project, and we are going to be linking it back to this particular item. So this is just an example of the types of actions that you can run. So let's just save it then. And once we save, all of these actions are going to kick in. These are not workflows. These are implemented in different ways, so they just respond to me saving this item. And it takes just a few seconds, and these actions keep on running in the background. So let me just refresh this page. And once we see, so first of all, there are going to be tasks generated. So I can click on details, and you can see that there are already 2 tasks created. One is for the documentation, the other one is for the resources, and they're linked to this item. We can actually have a button that will complete the task by clicking on it. It's one of those manual actions that we can have. Let's refresh it again, and the website should be created by now as well. Okay, maybe a little bit longer. Okay, so it's created, and we can go to this. It's been linked to the item as well, and we can go, and there's a brand new site that has been generated for this project. Again, all we had to do from our side is basically to just create a list item. Just to show you very quickly how easy it is to configure. Again, click on Design, there's the actions, and these are all the actions that we have already configured for our list. These are for documentation, so let me just show you how easy it is to configure. Can create new ones as well. So basically, all I have to do is, this is a create list item type of action, and it creates a new item in project tasks list and just maps the values of the field that we want. Okay, lookups. So cascading lookups, again, a very common requirement. Actually, you can do that in InfoPath, only in the form library-based kind. In our case, we can also do it with unlimited levels. What you cannot do in InfoPath is to add new values on the fly. So for instance, I'm creating a purchase order. I just noticed that I'm just in the middle. I just noticed that I don't have the supplier in my list. So in InfoPath and in regular SharePoint, I would have to close the form, go add the supplier in a different list, then go back and re-enter all the information. In our case, we can do it on the fly, and as well as we can also filter the values, so we can choose it faster. That capability we also have, and InfoPath does not. So just to show you how it works, so again, let's go to purchase orders. Create a new one. So for each supplier, we'll have the contacts. They're filtered by supplier. So for instance, I choose another one. It's another one. Let's just say I want to work with another contact that I don't have in my system. Say John Smith. Actually, I don't need to specify the supplier. If I select the correct one, I just can leave it. Save, and it created it and already selected it for me directly here. So it's very easy and convenient and user-friendly. Signatures. Again, for business processes, we might be required to add electronic signature of some kind. So InfoPath does have digital signatures which work with digital certificate that you might issue yourself internally or buy from someone. And these signatures can only be viewed within the forms themselves. In our case, we provide a field type for electronic signatures. These can be validated using your Active Directory credentials or handwritten using a signature pad. And you can view those signatures on forms, but also in any view and in print. Just to show you how it looks like, we actually saw it. I just never mentioned it before. So the signature would look like something like this, right? Who signed and when. If it's a handwritten signature, you would also be able to see the writing as well. So it's visible in any view, and if I open it up, it can also be visible within the form itself. Under the approval. Okay, printing. Again, very important to be able to take out the information from your list and send it to someone in a printed format, predefined format. So in InfoPath, you can print, but you can only print whatever you see on the screen. It's going to be looking exactly like the form that you created in InfoPath. In our case, we can create multiple templates. Your user can create multiple templates and even select one of the templates automatically based on field values. You can not just print. Well, in InfoPath form services, you can only print, but in our solution, you can also convert to PDF in email together with the attachments, and you can do it from any place, from any view, and from any form, and you can even print multiple items together. In InfoPath, you can only print directly from the form itself. So let's just see how it looks. Again, purchase orders. So I want to print this purchase order. It integrates, the print button integrates in any context menu, in any ribbon. So let's do it from the context menu. You can see the print button here. And it's going to be opening it in this template that's called purchase order. It has our header, our footer. All of the related items are in there, all the color coding, signatures, and you can even convert something to be a barcode or QR code. You can also convert to PDF directly from here by simply clicking the PDF button, and it's going to look exactly the same in the PDF as well. And you can even send it to someone or multiple people directly from here as a PDF or regular attachment. You can even run the whole process of printing through an action behind the scenes, even based on the timer. So it's easy to create reports that are weekly reports that are sent automatically without you having to click any buttons. Now let's see what happens if we try to print an item that has not been approved. So let's see this item. print it. And we're going to see something completely different. The template that is selected is called invalid order, and it has no information regarding the purchase order. So you basically select the correct template, print template, based on the values, in this case the approval status, of the item. External data. Okay, working with external data sources, we can do it with MS SQL and web services in InfoPath. In our case, we can work with any type of database or web services. We can filter your external data based on field values within your form, both cases. And there's also the automatic process of importing and exporting. In our case, we can import from emails and your web services or any databases. So you can create CRM systems, help desk solutions, and so on. Completely automated. Let's see how it works, again, with a purchase order. So we create a new purchase order, and we go and we want to add an item. So I create a new item, and our items, our products, and our price list is actually stored in an external SQL database. So once I select a category, it goes and it queries that database and brings me the items that belong to this category, and then I select an item and I can get its details, including the price, and that information will go straight into your list when you save it, and it will participate in any calculations and so on. So for instance, I read and I say 12 of these, and when I save, it's going to be added as an item here, and it's going to be already calculated. The subtotal is already calculated. So it brought the price from the SQL database, and it multiplied it by quantity and got the total. So you can, in this way, work with your external data. As I mentioned, the automatic process can also synchronize your SharePoint data with your external data, databases, web services, emails, and so on. Color coding. Well, we've seen that around. The ability to set, for instance, in InfoPath, you can set the background color, font color, boldness, and so on, based on the value of the field. In our case, we can set background color, font, and we can also do it as icons instead of color coding. In InfoPath, you can see it only within the form itself. In our case, you can see it in forms, in views, calendars, our calendars, and in printouts. We actually saw the icons in printouts. Just to show you again, I think we had a good example in projects where the color coding was by status, so we could see it directly in the view. The view was color-coded. Or in the insurances, we had the icon based on the type of insurance. So we had the green and blue star. So these are the types of things that you can easily achieve. And the last feature is the item ID. In many cases, when you run, again, purchase orders and so on, you want to generate your own ID. So in our case, we can have any type of ID automatically assigned based on our template, which can be a combination of text, column values, and so on. And it will be automatically applied in the background, and you can block the field from being edited manually as well. This is not something that InfoPath supports directly, not in the same sense. This concludes the comparison of features, but we did not cover many of the features of Ultimate Forms that simply do not map to anything in InfoPath. So we mentioned actions. We did not talk about actions so much. This is a very big topic. We did not talk about alerts. We have an alert mechanism that replaces the built-in one with the ability to have conditions, multiple internal and external recipients, and custom mail templates. We did not talk about color-coded calendars, charts, and graphs, color-coded views, KPIs. list search, voting, and much more. I'm just going to show you some of the things here just to give you some idea of what's going on. So the color-coded calendar that can bring in information from multiple data sources, and it can actually work with associated items as well. Let me just show you. Let's move a couple of months back where we had more data. So you can see here that we have information coming from multiple data sources. You can see them here, events and projects. And we can filter that data based on any category. We can have also the related tasks, and we can manage the related tasks directly from within the calendar. It's all color-coded as well. And we have multiple views, and we can also even print the calendar and convert it to PDF directly from within the calendar as well, and we can email the calendar as well. Another thing that we did not cover is the ability to have, apologize, something is slow, maybe because I'm recording. So the ability to have charts. So we have can have multiple charts. There are 30-something types of charts. In this case, it's showing the license that we saw. You can also have the ability to filter based on the chart. So I can click on the green part, which is the vehicle, and I will have the raw data in the list underneath filtered according to what I clicked on the calendar. And the last thing that I wanted to show you that was not covered is the ability to have KPIs. Another powerful feature, in this case, this is a list of budget utilizations, how much we wanted to spend, how much budget we have, and how much we spent actually. So you can have the progress bar, and we can have the state. In this case, it's green under 80%, yellow between 80 and 100, and red above 100%. So you can have that as well, very easily added to any list and visible in any view. Okay. So in conclusion, Ultimate Forms allows you to build the forms that you need easily without using any external tools. It has a feature set that compares and exceeds what was you were capable of using InfoPath, and you can actually meet us and see everything in action in Boston at the SharePoint SP TechCon conference in September. You can also download everything for a 30-day trial from our website as well. Thank you for coming today. We're going to be staying on the line for another 5 minutes or so to answer any questions that you might have. And thank you again for coming. Goodbye.